Most people think discipline is about willpower. They think it's about gritting your teeth, white knuckling through discomfort, and somehow forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do through sheer mental strength. And that's exactly why most people fail. Discipline isn't about willpower. Willpower is finite. Willpower runs out. Willpower is what weak people rely on, because they don't understand how the human mind actually works. Real discipline is about systems. It's about psychology. It's about rewiring your brain and restructuring your environment so that the right actions become inevitable. By the time you finish this audiobook, you will not be the same person. That's not motivation speaking. That's neuroscience. Every strategy I'm about to share with you will physically change your brain. You will develop new neural pathways. You will break old patterns that have kept you stuck. And you will build an unshakable foundation of discipline that will serve you for the rest of your life. But here's what this is not. This is not another feel-good, self-help book that tells you to believe in yourself. This is not about positive thinking or motivation. This is about cold, hard systems that work, whether you feel like it or not. This is about forcing compliance from yourself, using proven psychological principles that the most successful people in the world use every single day. If you're tired of starting and stopping, if you're sick of setting goals and never following through, if you're done being disappointed in yourself, then this is your solution, but only if you're ready to do the work. Only if you're ready to completely transform how you operate. Only if you're ready to join the small percentage of people who actually follow through on what they say they're going to do. Chapter 1. The discipline delusion that's keeping you weak. Let me destroy the biggest lie you've been told about discipline. You've been programmed to believe that discipline is about fighting yourself, that it's about forcing yourself to do things you hate, that successful people are just better at suffering than you are. This is complete nonsense, and it's the reason why 99% of people never develop real discipline. Here's the truth that no one wants to tell you. Discipline is not about willpower. Discipline is not about motivation. Discipline is not about being tougher or stronger than other people. Real discipline is about understanding human psychology and using it to your advantage. It's about designing systems that make the right choices automatic. It's about creating an environment where success is inevitable and failure becomes nearly impossible. Think about the people you admire most, the athletes who train every single day, the entrepreneurs who work when others sleep, the artists who create masterpieces while others scroll social media. Do you really think they wake up every morning excited to do hard things? Do you think they never feel lazy, never feel unmotivated, never want to quit? Of course they do. They're human. The difference is they don't rely on feelings to drive their actions. They've built systems that operate independently of how they feel. They've created structures that force them to take the right actions, even when every part of them wants to do something else. This is what I call the discipline operating system, and it's the foundation that everything else builds upon. Most people are running their lives on outdated software. They're using willpower when they should be using systems. They're trying to muscle through resistance when they should be eliminating it entirely. The first step to real discipline is understanding that you don't need to become a different person. You don't need to develop superhuman willpower. You don't need to love doing hard things. You just need to understand how your brain works and design your life accordingly. Your brain has two primary modes of operation. There's the prefrontal cortex, which handles conscious decision-making, planning, and impulse control. This is your logical brain. It's smart, but it's also limited. It gets tired. It gets overwhelmed. It can only handle so many decisions before it starts to break down. Then there's your basal ganglia, which handles automatic behaviors and habits. This is your subconscious brain. It's incredibly powerful, but it's not smart. It simply executes whatever patterns you've programmed into it, good or bad. Most people try to run everything through their prefrontal cortex. They rely on conscious decision-making for every action. Should I work out today? Should I eat this? Should I check my phone? Should I do this task or that task? By noon, their decision-making capacity is exhausted, and they default to whatever's easiest. Disciplined people do the opposite. They use their prefrontal cortex to design systems, then let their basal ganglia execute those systems automatically. They don't decide whether to work out every day. They've automated the decision. They don't debate what to eat. They've already planned their meals. They don't wonder what to work on. They've already structured their day. This is why motivation is useless. Motivation is trying to use your prefrontal cortex to override your natural programming. It works temporarily, but it's not sustainable. Real discipline is about reprogramming your basal ganglia so that the right actions become as automatic as brushing your teeth. But here's what most self-help gurus won't tell you. Building these systems requires initial discomfort. It requires you to do things that feel unnatural at first. It requires you to go against your current programming. And that's exactly what separates the disciplined from the undisciplined. Most people quit at the first sign of resistance. They try to build a new habit for a few days, feel uncomfortable, and give up. They tell themselves they're just not disciplined people. But discipline isn't a personality trait you're born with. It's a skill you develop through practice. The key is understanding that the discomfort is temporary, but the system is permanent. You only have to build the habit once, but you get to benefit from it forever. You only have to go through the initial resistance once, but then it becomes effortless. This means discipline is actually the path of least resistance, not most resistance. Undisciplined people think they're taking the easy path, but they're actually making their lives harder. They're constantly fighting themselves, constantly starting over, constantly dealing with the consequences of inconsistency. Disciplined people do the hard work. Once up front, to make everything else easy, they invest in building systems that serve them for years. They endure short-term discomfort to create long-term ease. So stop thinking about discipline as a battle against yourself. Start thinking about it as an investment in yourself. Stop relying on willpower and start building systems. Stop trying to change your personality and start changing your environment. The moment you make this shift, everything becomes possible. Chapter 2: The Neuroscience of Forcing Change. Your brain is not designed for discipline. It's designed for survival. And in the modern world, those survival instincts are working against you. Understanding this is crucial because you can't fix a problem you don't understand, and you can't build discipline if you're fighting against your own biology. Let me explain what's happening in your brain. When you try to be disciplined, your limbic system, the emotional center of your brain, is constantly scanning for threats and rewards. It wants immediate gratification and safety. It wants you to avoid discomfort and seek pleasure. This system is fast, powerful, and operates below conscious awareness. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, can override these impulses, but only temporarily and at great cost. Every time you resist an impulse, every time you choose the hard path over the easy path, you're depleting what researchers call cognitive resources. This is why willpower feels exhausting. You're literally fighting a war in your head. But here's the breakthrough that changes everything. You can reprogram your limbic system. You can train your brain to crave the things that are good for you and avoid the things that are bad for you. You can make discipline feel natural instead of forced. This is called neuroplasticity, and it's the secret weapon of every highly disciplined person. Neuroplasticity means your brain is constantly changing. Based on your behavior every time you repeat an action, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that action. Every time you resist an action, you weaken those pathways. Your brain literally rewires itself based on what you do consistently. This is why habits become easier over time. The first few weeks of a new habit feel difficult because you're creating new neural pathways from scratch. But once those pathways are established, the behavior becomes automatic. Your brain starts to expect that behavior and even crave it. The key is understanding how to accelerate this process. Most people try to build habits through repetition alone. But that's inefficient. You can hack your neuroplasticity by understanding the three core components of habit formation: cue, routine, and reward. The cue triggers the behavior. The routine is the behavior itself. The reward reinforces the behavior and makes you want to repeat it.